and we can go from there. Okay, Lorinda, all yours.
Lovely. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks everyone for coming today. I was very, very excited when Michelle asked me to do this today. I'm also going into my 8th week of permanently working from home, well, hopefully not permanently. At the moment, I've also got 2 children, so I'm trying to juggle the homeschool situation as well. I've got a 5-year-old, so she's just started school this year, so that's been a bit disruptive for the poor little thing. So she's currently watching TV downstairs, so hopefully she doesn't come in and say hi. And I've got an 11-year-old son who's at the end of primary school. So he's sort of doing his own thing, doing a Zoom class meeting at the moment as well. So yeah, look, it is a juggle. And I actually feel like this is the perfect time to talk about things like OneNote because it beautifully supports remote working. I've been at IAG for just over 18 years, pretty much always working at the C-suite level as an EA. And currently supporting both the CEO and the chairman as their EA for the last 4 years or so. Our CEO, he's very, very supportive of workplace flexibility. So early on working with him, he was really encouraging in terms of us role modeling flexibility and showing how it can work. When it actually when we started to work more flexibly, we were working in a very traditional office though, very paper-based. I, having been an EA for some time, had very traditional ways of working, printed a lot of documents. I had colour manilaed folders, one for invitations and one for sign here and all that sort of thing. I'm seeing some nods. So the thought of going from that to a very online working environment was quite scary. So we sort of looked around for a tool that would support that, and we had Office 365 come in, and one of the tools was OneNote. So quite early on, sort of 6 months before we moved into an activity-based working environment. So we moved almost 2 years ago to, I guess some people call it hot desking, but activity-based working where you can sit anywhere. You have a neighbourhood floor. You can sit anywhere, pick up your laptop or your iPad and you just work wherever you want, whether that be from home, from the coffee shop. So we needed a tool that we could collaborate easily with, and that turned out to be OneNote. The other challenge we had, of course, was we went to an environment where there was not a lot of storage space or the ability to print and have a lot of documents. So that's when I actually decided to have a go at OneNote. So I literally replicate it. So I should stop here and say, look, I'm obviously, like all of us, I'm not an IT expert. I've just delved into it. I've trained myself. Often we end up knowing a bit more than some of the IT people, I think, because we use it and we know how we want to use it. And I literally picked up what I was doing in paper and created kind of an online environment in OneNote. So what I wanted to do today was talk to you all about how I use it with my CEO and how it's enabled us to work and collaborate really seamlessly. The beauty of OneNote, I was going to ask for it. So I think Michelle said you're all using OneNote at the moment in some way. Is that right? Yeah. And can I have a show of hands? Because I actually use OneNote 2016, not the one that's with Windows 10. So I was going to have a bit of a hands up of who's using which version at the moment. So OneNote 2016. Okay, so that's probably about half, roughly. So who's using the OneNote that goes with Windows 10? Both. So I'm using both, I think. Yeah. Okay. So the reason I was going to talk to Michelle, I spoke to Michelle about before I started this session, just the reasons why I'm using 2016. I find, so we're still on Outlook 2016. So I think the functionality between OneNote 2016 and Outlook 2016 works a lot better. So some of the functionality and the things that I do in my day-to-day job, they just work better. So eventually I think we will move on to Outlook in the cloud, and then I think we'll move up to the more modern version of OneNote. I was laughing. We had a conversation with Sarah Chapman, who works for the CEO of Microsoft here in Australia, and she even uses Microsoft OneNote 2016. So I thought, well, if she's doing it, I don't feel so bad that I haven't moved on to the new version. She agrees. She said that actually some of the functionality is better, and I haven't wanted to lose that until we sort of catch up to the next version. So at the moment, I believe 2016 is staying around. They're not going to do upgrades to it, but you can still use it for as long as you want, from what I can tell. So any questions so far? I don't think. No, all good. All right, so what I was going to do today is go into a little bit of I think you all know what OneNote is and what it's used for. I mean, the way I look at it is I kind of feel like in our new kind of way of working, it's kind of replaced that old spiral bound notebook that you used to walk around with and the post-it notes and all that sort of thing you used to have all over your desk. And it's kind of one spot to do all your notes and thinking and work. And I use it to actually manage the workflow between myself and my CEO. So we actually have set up a OneNote notebook for him and a OneNote notebook so that he and I share, and one just for me. So that's what I've set up, and I'll do a bit of a live demo of what I've done. So I'm going to go through different ways of using it and how I've used it. If I'm going over stuff that you already know, feel free to sort of say, this is not what you're looking for. But I spoke to Michelle about showing, I guess, in the CEO's office, how I think it works well to make all the work run smoothly. And I also think it's a good way to make sure nothing sort of falls through the safety net as well. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now if everyone's ready. All good? Okay. Okay, if everyone can see my screen. Great. All right, so what I've done is I've created a replica of what we use, what I've actually set up for my CEO and myself. So I'll go back to creating a new notebook. So I think you're probably all familiar, so I'll be really quick through this. But so to do a new notebook, wherever you want to do it, you go File, New. I have a shared with Peter, that's the CEO's name. So we can do it in there. Okay, so we'll just call it Test. And then it asks you straight away if you would like to share it with someone. I tend not to, because I like to get it all set up, and then when I'm ready to share it, I share it afterwards. So I'd go Not Now, and there it is. So that's how to create a new notebook. I'll just close that one. So I think you're all aware when you close a notebook, it doesn't delete it, but it actually will just hide it. So you can always reopen it if you want to. I'll get rid of that one. And of course, it's going through a sync, as you can see at the moment, which is great timing. So it just syncs. I think you're probably all aware, it just syncs constantly in the background to make sure that whatever you're looking at is the same as what your manager's looking at any one time. Okay, just got to get through this sync. Okay. All right. So then when you've created a new notebook, you go into creating different sections. I sometimes call these tabs. I know the proper word is sections, but to me they look like little tabs along the top. So this is what I've created for my CEO. So this would be the notebook that he looks at. And this is where I create all the work for him to go through every day during the day. So one of the first things I do is I'll create a day pack for him. And I tend to insert the calendar sheet for the day. And then along the side here is where I put any sort of work or anything that would have been brought forward. I don't know if you're like me, I used to have a concertina file with every day of the month, and that's where I'd have all my brought forward documents. So then you'd sort of drag them into here. So to create, so this is again a bit of a dummy calendar for the day. So you can print. So one of the ways of inserting to OneNote is actually to send to OneNote via the print function. And of course, in your print options, you can change the time of the day that it starts or finishes here. And then you can go. Print that into the daypack. And it asks where I would like to put it. So I'm putting it into the daypack here, but I'm putting it on the day that I want it to appear. So there it is. So if he goes into his OneNote pack, that will show what's in his diary for that day. Of course, you've still got your diary to look at as well, but this sort of has it all in one spot. Then I would actually create against each meeting that he has that day. You can see he's got a catch up with John Jones at 8 in the morning. I've blocked out some time at 10 for him to review some draft board papers. And then he's got a lunch with Joe Bloggs at 12. And then he's going to host a leadership team meeting at 2. So I would create sub pages here for each of those things. So you can actually either click add a page, or you can use this little plus sign that's coming up here. Where is it? There it is. And then I'm going to put something in about his first meeting. So catch up, so at 8 o'clock that morning, catch up with John. Got to get my fingers warmed up. John Jones. Okay. So in my notebook, so he doesn't have access to my notebook. This is like my working folder. So in my notebook, I have a bring forward file. And here I would have John Jones's CV. And he said to me, I really want you to bring forward his CV for the day. So I'm going to go into my emails. Now, where's John Jones's CV? Here it is. So I can either send that directly to OneNote from here using this little button, send to OneNote, or I can go into the actual email, send it to OneNote that way. Either way, so here we are. I wanted to put it in his day pack against this meeting. So you can see there, it's actually put the whole email in. What I could have done also is actually opened up the CV and printed that straight in by itself. So again, you can go File, Print, and you choose with your drop down printers that you've got, send to OneNote as a printer. And it will print it in there for you. The beauty of it doing it this way is it does what's called a file printout. So you can have that down here. And then that means that if he wants to make any notes on it, he can do that. He can mark it up. If he has a stylus, my boss uses his stylus quite a lot. He wants to write on it, or he can free type in there and say, Lorinda, this isn't the right CV. So it's very much like having a piece of paper and a notebook and making notes as you need them between the two of us. So that's currently that's now in his day pack for the day, and so on and so forth. So we can actually continue on and create different little sub pages for each meeting that he has that day. I would also then, in any of these sections, other things that he's working on. So again, that might be, if we go back into the emails, there's a draft board paper to be reviewed. So again, I'll go into his notebook, and it's going to go into for review or action. And the difference between, so it's sitting there as an attachment at the moment. If he double clicks that, it'll open in Adobe, but he won't be able to mark it up in OneNote. So you always need to insert it as what they call as a printout. So it actually prints within the page. So then he can actually make changes on it. Will be coming. And so there it is. So it's sitting there for his review. So when he has time, he can actually make changes to it. He can do that either by type or by using his stylus. So that's the other beauty of the 2 notebooks is once he's actually finished with that, and I know that he wants me to work on it, so I'm constantly checking between the 2 notebooks, I will move that over to my to be actioned or work in progress folder. So you can drag and drop between as many notebooks as you have. So I try to keep his really clean. So once he's finished with whatever he's done, I clean it out, and then my notebook has, you know, all my ongoing work. So I've got a folder for things that I need to discuss. I think we all know sometimes you have a list that it's just easier to talk about. So that's my list. So I keep that there for things that I want to talk to him in person. Bring forward is that old concertina file with everything by date. And so then you can drag it into daypacks as they're used. Anything sitting there for follow-up. Filing. So you can actually save anything in here to PDF and actually save it on file. So it's easy as just doing file print. So Control P and then just choosing your PDF. I'll just file it to, sorry, I should have had it ready to go in the right folder. Okay. So you can easily save anything out of here as a PDF and then attach it to an email and email it on to somebody. So it's creating it. There you go. So it's actually created that document for us. There it is. And if he'd made any notes on it, it would have captured all of that as well. Any markups or typed in notes. And the other really nice one that I like is something that's got some notes on it. Is this one, email page. So if it's a short document and you don't really want to save it as a PDF and attach it, you can actually email the page directly to somebody. And it will embed what's seen here actually into the email. If you can all see that. So then you can email it on to somebody. It still attaches it, but it attaches the original PDF without the markups. So I, more often than not, I actually delete that because as you scroll down, you'll see what is actually in the email. Okay, I can't see my chat screen at the moment. Are there any questions? Where is it? Do I have to come out of share, Michelle, to see my chat screen?
No, hi Lorinda, it's Alex here.
Hi, Alex.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thanks so much for the presentation so far. I just had a question around, obviously because you're showing us from your perspective, but when you're sharing this with your CEO,
yes,
does his markups, does it also sort of identify him? So for example, you've got Lorinda Moore up the top, LM, and your little icon up there. Does it also put that icon on your vision, if that makes sense?
So if he's made a markup, does it tell me that it was him? Is that what you mean? Yes, yes. So this here would have a little symbol at the side that has his initials.
Got it. Okay. Yep. So just also asking too, because if you then shared it with, say, a group of people, it would be a similar thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a really good question, because I've actually got a team assistant too within our small team. So we actually all share that notebook. So it's really good to know who has made the markups. The only thing that it won't identify is if he does these kind of scratchings. Excuse me. You can't tell who's done that. But he tends to be the only person that does that, so it's fairly easy to follow. I tend to type in my my comments. So I've gotten into the habit, if he makes handwritten notes, I ask him just to put the date in front of them. So, you know, because sometimes he's written notes over several days, just to kind of keep track of when he's done it, and you know, sort of keep track that way. I have a question here. Is there a particular location that you need to save your OneNote file? Yeah, so you actually, there's something called, it should be your own company area. I don't even know the technical way to call it, but that's kind of your own, that'll have all your own notebooks in there. And then if you create the notebook, you can then share it from there, and you can share it with as many people as you want. You can remove people, but then you will have control of that notebook. So you won't lose it if you move computers. Okay, I wanted to show you a couple of other little things. So I might just run across the toolbars at the top just to show you things, some of the things you may know. As I said before, look, I've never formally been trained on OneNote, but it's one of those things I've just kind of delved in and found the little tips and tricks as they come along, what kind of is helpful and what works for us. Some things I've never used, some things I use all the time. So in here, what have we got? Okay, so highlighting, I find this really, so if we've made lots and lots of notes on something and I want him to really look at something, I'll, you know, highlight, bold, make it red. So, you know, and you can move that around anywhere you want. So it's really, really free form, which I like about it. You know, you're not kind of locked into anything being in a certain spot. You can move stuff around. It's very, very user friendly. You can create tags. So these little tags here, I created this one called sign here, because we do, when we move to activity-based working, we don't really have any paper anymore. Very, very, very little amount of paper. So we do a lot of our signing of documents now electronically. So if I wanted him to sign something, I could literally just put this in. He will sign it, and then if he signs it here, say he's signing it, great, signed. And then if I wanted to then save that as a PDF or email it on, embed it into an email, I can do that. And then I can delete that little sign here tag. It's a bit like those little stickers we all used to have that we'd put on to sign things. So that's really handy. I found that handy. There's to-do lists, which you can, if you do a to-do list, you can actually tick it off as you've done it. Again, you can delete these things, so move them around. What else have I got here? Oh, meeting details. So you can actually link, if you're doing some notes about a meeting, you can actually link this into a meeting that you've got in your calendar or your boss's calendar. It'll actually put the, I'm not sure where this is, where it's going to embed it, probably right here. But it'll actually input somewhere. Oh, maybe it hasn't put it in for this particular meeting. But it would actually put the little details of the meeting. So you're taking some notes or some minutes from a meeting. It actually has at the top who was there, what time, a link back to the calendar invite, all that sort of thing. So very interactive between obviously all the Office 365 applications. Oh, that's a really good question. If your manager's on a flight and working and make notes and he's not on Wi-Fi, when does it sync? When he next goes on Wi-Fi. Very, very good question. So it won't sync offline, but he won't lose it. It'll be there, but I won't see it until he's actually back on the Wi-Fi, and then it'll sync for me again. Insert space is a really nice tool. So if you've realised actually you need to put something in between, all you do is that, insert space, and it inserts space either way. So it actually can take the space away as well. It's a really handy little tool. Inserting a table, yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. This is the file printout versus file attachment. So That's a file attachment, whereas this here is the file as a printout. So that's all those terms mean. And as I said, if you put a file attachment, your manager can't open it up and mark it up within OneNote. It'll just open up in where it came from in PDF. But the file printout is the format you want for marking up. Insert spreadsheet is really interesting because you can actually insert it in different ways. So if we do an existing spreadsheet, I actually didn't set one up for, oh, that'll do. I don't think there's anything confidential in that. I didn't have a dummy one to show you. You can set it up as, you can attach it as a file, which again will just bring the little icon up that then you can open back in Excel. You can insert a spreadsheet, which will be interactive. So actually if there's changes being made to the spreadsheet, it'll pick it up. Or you can insert it as a chart or a table, which I think is quite handy, because if you actually just want them to see the information, so you'll have options, display everything or certain tabs. It'll actually just come up as a little chart. So it won't be interactive, but they can see the information. It's easier to see. These are our draft board calendars for next year. So there you go. And again, you can draw on that. You can do whatever you want with it. It's totally, it's like a piece of paper and a pen. You've got it there. You can, do whatever you want with it. So I'll insert screen clippings. That's a little bit like the old snipping tool. So again, you can just take something, but it'll actually pop it straight into where you were on there it is. It'll actually pop it in straight where you were working in OneNote at the time. So that's a good little tool as well. Inserting pictures, I think that's all pretty self-explanatory. You can actually record a little message for your manager, or they can do it for you. So they can actually, so a bit like the old dictaphone, they can actually record something here for you and leave you a little note that you click on within OneNote as well. They're probably the main ones I use in here. Drawing, I think we talked a bit about, so I think we've done most of those. So yeah, you can highlight. Very interactive, just like having a highlighter. Draw. History. Now this is really interesting. I found this is really, really good to know, because obviously with different people collaborating on something, you kind of want to make sure sometimes that something's not lost. So you can actually bring up page versions. I haven't done different page versions on this, so it won't bring them up. But if you clicked on page versions, it'll actually bring you up all the different versions and dates that this particular document was worked on. So if you wanted to go back to a previous one, you could. You haven't lost it, which is really handy. And the notebook recycle bin. Now, everything you've done and deleted goes into what's called the recycle bin, which you can see here. Oh, this is some other training that I've done on OneNote at my work. And as you can see, it's actually got things that I've deleted. So you don't lose anything when it's deleted, but it only, as it indicates here, it'll only be there for 60 days. After 60 days, it's permanently deleted. So what you can do within that 60 days is you can right-click it and restore it, or you can just basically drag it back over to your working book if you need to. So anywhere you want. So there it is. That's what I had deleted, and now it's back into my working folder. So I find that's really handy as well. And I think my last really, really top tip is something called, it's called Quick Notes. So if you, I don't know, you guys are probably like me, that when you're sitting at your desk and you're in the middle of 17,000 different tasks and your boss just walks up to you and starts talking, and you're just going, okay, where's my pen and paper? What am I doing? Okay, yep. So this, you don't even have to be in OneNote. If you hit the keys window, if you've got the window key and N, it brings up a little notepad. And there it is. So he's chatting away to you and he's saying, yep, can you do this? Yep. And you haven't even found your pen and paper by this stage. I love this because you could be in your emails. I'll just show you, I'll get rid of that one. Here I am in my emails and he's walked up to me. I'm not even in OneNote and I hit Windows N. And there it is. So you can be anywhere doing anything at the time, and you've got your little post-it note, but it's virtual. And that will sync, but it won't sync into your notebooks that you've created and that you're sharing with your manager. It'll sync into what's called your quick notes, which I'll show you here. So that's quick notes. So you can find it there, and then you can then copy and paste what he'd said to you. You can, then move it down here. You can sort of use the quick note for whatever you want. So that I really, really love that tool. It saved me a lot of times when they sort of just start talking at you and you can't find your pen and your paper. So I think you can probably see from this how OneNote can really replace anything you were doing with paper, I think. It's very rare that we do much with a paper and pen anymore. If you have OneNote, and OneNote, you can use it on your iPad, you can use it on your iPhone, also tablet or smartphone, I should say. We've got it on our laptops, so it's really, and they all sync with each other. So it's really a great way of supporting flexible working and remote working quite seamlessly. And Amanda would know that we've actually, we've got about 13,500 employees at IAG, and when COVID-19 hit, within 3 weeks, we had about 95% of our workforce at home, working from home, because we have had this kind of technology working for a while. So everyone was kind of ready to go, and it wasn't such a huge leap for us to sort of suddenly not all be in the office together. So yeah, really kind of quite an easy move for us. Question from Alex: how much training did you need to give your CEO to adopt this way of working? That's a really good question. I'm lucky enough to have a CEO that's very tech savvy and very, very keen on new technology. So it hasn't been a hard sell for me. It was probably harder for me to actually take it up, and it's that whole fear of the unknown and having a go at stuff that you don't understand. But as Michelle would say, it's just so worth getting in there, playing around with it, have a go. You see, even if there's a couple of tips you got today to go, wow, actually that'll save me so much time. I don't actually need to print that, or I don't need to, be in the office to do that. I think it's worthwhile. And so he encouraged me he basically said to me, we're moving to activity-based working in 6 months. He said, I want you to come up with a way that isn't paper-based. And so this, for me, was such an easy transition down to all these folders are the same color as the manila folders we used to have on the desk. So, his reviewer action folder was blue, and his invitations was red, and yellow was for signature. So it was a really easy transition. But I do think that it'll be harder for some managers than others. So I think it's like anything, just start in baby steps and show, set up a little notebook, share it, show how you can work together. And then hopefully they'll see the benefit too of not only managing the workflow, but being able to do it when you're not always together, which I think is particularly really important right now.
Amazing. I just put in the chat, does anyone have any roadblocks? Melissa's asked something. What did she say? Melissa's asked Lorinda if there's a concept could be used for knowledge management.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to give a little bit more context to that question, we are considering OneNote for knowledge management, and I was just wondering if you or anyone has used the tool and what their feedback is on whether it's a good, whether it's useful.
So do you mean it's like a repository for information so that I would have, and I'm not an expert in it, but I would have thought Teams, which OneNote is part of that package, would probably be a better tool. I don't know, Michelle, if you'd agree.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say I don't use Teams, Melissa, for that. I don't know whether there's anyone else in the course, but I think it's got more capacity or functionality than OneNote. But obviously, the two can feed into each other.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I also think that OneNote, it shouldn't be thought of as a filing system. It's not really like a repository like that. Yeah, so I think it's more a collaboration. It's a workflow system.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. What else have we got? Pam's asked, I use Goodreader for documents for my manager, but wasn't able to convince her to switch to OneNote. I certainly be keen to embrace this. Okay. I don't know Goodreader, so I can't comment on that. Does anyone have any other questions? Because I think, you know, I love, you know, when I was supporting my CEO and we were working in different locations, OneNote was my saviour. We were working in 2 different time zones, and the amount of information that you can put in there. And also, I mean, communication is key, as you guys know, with supporting a CEO, but sometimes you just want a quick answer from them, and sending them a barrage of messages through text or WhatsApp is sometimes challenging. So this will get the signature quicker, it will get the action item action quicker. It'll also, if you've got last minute meetings, I used to love that as well, Lorinda. If my CEO was walking into a meeting and she didn't know who was in there, you'd be able to give them a quick brief without having a phone call, and that information was there straight away.
Yeah, I like it because it's kind of less intrusive in some ways, and it's kind of somewhere where they know if they need anything, they can go there. You know, it's almost like us there in a little package. You know, they can get all their information, but it's not a barrage of emails or text messages or phone calls. But he knows if he goes there, what he needs is there. And because it's syncing constantly, it's so live, you know, it keeps moving constantly. So it's never out of date. So yeah, I agree. I think it's really good for that.
And I think the other thing, which is a great thing, guys, we've been talking a lot over the last couple of weeks about people are trying to implement like things like DocuSign and Adobe and stuff like that. That can sometimes be challenging, whereas this, they can just draw their signature straight away, and it's so easy, so much simpler for them and so much quicker. So this is another option for them to have their signature live in there when you need a signature, instead of using DocuSign or Adobe or those other tools that are out there. So think of that.
Yeah, and you can insert the signature. You know, it doesn't have to be live signed with a stylus. You can do the image of the signature like you would have before, save it as a PDF. So, you know, I've checked with our legal department, they say that's fine. It's still a signed document. So as long as, you know, within whatever restrictions you've got, it works beautifully. We couldn't find a pen. It was hilarious. We had to sign something, you know, everyone's like physically signed something one day, and we were so used to using this that no one had a pen. So it's really, it's great. And it's just so timely, I think, you know, the world we find ourselves in.
Alex H has asked, has it cut down the email traffic? Well, I would say yes, it did with me. What about you, Lorinda? It must cut it down a fair bit.
It does, but I do use both still. But sometimes, and I think to your point, Michelle, when it's not urgent, I will put it straight into OneNote. I don't email him about stuff, you know, stuff that can wait, because I know he'll get to his invitations section, or he'll get to his reviewer action section. So I don't bother emailing. So yeah, I think I would agree. I think it has cut down.
And I think also in these times, we're talking about the increase of email traffic coming in. We have to find better solutions. And I think when you've got Microsoft Teams and OneNote, the two are talking to each other, and it will reduce the email traffic that's coming in. So you've just got to use the functionality in the right way.
Yeah, I think so too. And I like the way you can send straight to OneNote from your emails too. So it's not, you know, sometimes if it might feel like it's a bit of double up, it's actually a one click to make sure that it's actually then in OneNote, and then that keeps track of that work. Yeah, it's a bit of a work tracking system as well, I think.
Yeah.
Which I quite like.
Hey guys, I'm mindful of everyone's time. It's 11 a.m. Does anyone have any last questions? Obviously, we've recorded this session. I'm also, the lovely Sarah Chapman from Microsoft has sent us a great link as well as a follow-up with some tips and tricks, because the integration with Microsoft Teams and OneNote, which is great. So I'll send you that link after this session. But does anyone have any burning questions before I let you all get on with your day? And some of it's your first day of the week, so I'm sure you're keen to get stuck into it. So if you want to take yourself off mute and ask any questions, please feel free. No one's got anything to say. We're getting lots of thank yous, Lorinda. So
is that a good thing?
Thank you. No, thank you. It was good.
Yeah, and I think this is the time as well, like, you know, when you create a community, what it does is if you've got a silly or dumb question, as I say, in that you're then not afraid to ask it to someone within your community. So, you know, don't be afraid to reach out afterwards. This is really, really important because it is a great tool. I think I used it for 5 years straight, and I couldn't survive without it. And moving from a paper environment to a paperless environment, this was the easiest transition, and your executive will come on board. You've just got to kind of, you know, hold their hand and navigate them slowly. And as Lorinda said, do one thing at a time and build it up.
And I'm very happy to take anything offline. You know, if you start using it and you can't remember how to do something, or, you know, as I said, I'm not an expert, but I love it and it's so valuable. So very happy to help anytime.
Amazing. Okay. No more questions. Ladies, have a fabulous day. Lorinda, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And stay connected, and yeah, reach out, and I'll send the recordings and the links in the next couple of hours to everyone. So have a great Tuesday.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Thank everyone. Bye.
Bye.